You've probably heard of supply and demand, right? But things get really interesting when both start changing at the same time. When everyone wants to buy something, but more of it is also being made. So what gives? That's the price puzzle we're cracking today.
Just think back to face masks in 2020. Almost overnight, demand just went through the roof. But then, pretty quickly, supply started to ramp up as all these new companies jumped into the game. So you have this huge pull from buyers and a big push from sellers. Where does the price actually land? That's the core of the puzzle we're solving.
Okay, but before we can solve that, we have to get one core economic concept down pat. It's this idea of a shift of a curve versus a movement along it. I promise, once you see this difference, everything else just falls into place.
So on the left, you've got a movement. This one's pretty simple. A product's price changes, so people decide to buy a little more or a little less of it. The basic desire is the same. You're just moving along a set path. But on the right, you see a shift. Now, this is a whole different ballgame. Something from the outside world has changed, and it has altered the entire relationship between price and how much people want to buy.
Let's think of it like a recipe. A change in quantity demanded is like making your favorite pizza. If the price of mozzarella suddenly drops, you might decide, hey, I'm going to add extra cheese. You're still following the same basic recipe. You're just adjusting an ingredient because its price changed.
But a change in demand, that's like throwing out the old recipe and getting a brand new one. Maybe you got a big raise and now you don't want a regular cheese pizza anymore. Now you want a fancy one with prosciutto and truffle oil, even if the price of that cheese pizza hasn't budged. Your entire desire, your recipe, has fundamentally shifted.
So if a simple price change just causes a movement, what are the big forces that cause an entire shift? Let's dive into the outside factors that can actually shove the whole curve left or right.
For the demand curve, it's all about what's going on with the buyer. You get a raise, boom, that's income. A new phone becomes the it gadget, that's a trend. The price of coffee shoots up, so you start buying more tea instead, that's a substitute. All of these things change how much you're willing to buy at any price.
Now, for the supply curve, the logic is actually even simpler. It pretty much all boils down to answering one question. Has it become cheaper or more expensive for a company to make its stuff? For instance, a new piece of technology makes production faster. That lowers costs. The price of steel goes up for a car maker. That raises costs. The government gives a company a subsidy. That's basically a cost reduction. See the pattern? Anything that touches the cost of doing business is going to shift the entire supply curve.
All right, so we've got the basics down. We know a movement from a shift, and we know what causes those shifts. So now it's time for the main event. What happens when both the demand curve and the supply curve decide to move at the exact same time?
This is where it gets really cool. When both curves move at once, one thing becomes totally predictable. You'll know for sure what happens to either the quantity or the price. But the other one, well, it becomes a wild tug of war between the buyers and the sellers.
Let's make this super clear by sticking with our example where both demand and supply go up. So way more people want to buy something, and at the same time, way more of it is being made available for sale.
And this table here spells it out perfectly. When both demand and supply increase, one thing is an absolute lock. The quantity sold is going to go up. That's a certainty. But look at the price. It says ambiguous. What does that mean? It means it could go up, down, or not change at all. So why is that? It all comes down to one crucial word: magnitude. The price is up for grabs because it depends on the size of the shifts. It's all about which force is stronger, right? Is the insane rush of new buyers more powerful than the flood of new products? Or does the new supply completely overwhelm the new demand? That is the tug of war.
So, case number one. Let's say the increase in demand is absolutely massive, but the increase in supply is kind of small. You've got a ton of new buyers all chasing after just a few more items. Well, in that tug of war, demand wins, hands down, and it pulls the price way up.
Or you could have the exact opposite. Imagine a tidal wave of new supply crashes into the market, but only a small trickle of new buyers show up. Now the shelves are overflowing, and sellers have to fight for customers. In this match, supply wins the tug of war, and the price gets pushed down.
And then, of course, there's the third possibility. The two forces are perfectly matched. For every new person who wants the product, a new one appears on the shelf. They increase in perfect sync. The result? It's a draw, and the price doesn't move an inch.
And this quote from our source material really is the key takeaway for this whole thing. It's not enough to just know which way the curves are moving. To actually predict what happens, you have to know the magnitude.
You have to know which shift was bigger.
So there you have it. That's the complete toolkit. We get the theory, we know what causes the shifts, and we understand the tug of war. So let's use it and finally solve that price puzzle we started with.
So let's go back to the masks. Early 2020, everybody and their brother wanted them, and it felt like every factory on Earth started making them. Both curves shifted to the right. Now, using our framework, we know for sure the quantity sold went up. But what about the price?
Let's break it down. Step 1. The fear and the government rules created a truly enormous, almost vertical shift in demand. Step 2. Supply did increase, sure, as new producers jumped in, but that stuff takes time to get going. So step 3, the tug of war, it wasn't even a fair fight. The demand shift was way, way bigger. And the result? The price went absolutely through the roof.
And just like that, the puzzle is solved. The price went crazy, not just because demand went up, but because the magnitude of that demand surge completely and totally overpowered the increase in supply. The buyer's desperation won the tug of war, and prices shot up.
So now this toolkit is yours. The next time you see a headline about the housing market, or you're wondering why gas prices are doing what they're doing, you'll be able to see the hidden story. It's never just about supply or just about demand. It's about the tug of war between them. And the real question to ask is always, which force is pulling harder? Now you know how to figure that out.